With the release date of 060 coming in closer and closer, we're going to be taking another look at what to expect in 060 or shortly after. First up, we're going to be talking about some additional map changes for 060. Now this picture is taken from the latest dev video about the new render, and it highlights some areas where clients would drop below 30 FPS. But it also reveals all the changed locations in the new build. Look what happens when we compare it to the 059 map. We can easily see some major changes to the map in the dev build, including Chernogorsk, Tolga, Berezino, Altar, which is a place west of Gorka, Krasnostav, and Tisi military base. Welcome to the city of Chernogorsk in 060. As you can see, there's now a football field. The famous signature building of Chernogorsk, often referred to by players as Triple Yellow, has been moved to the side, and the entire port area has been redesigned to accommodate a load of containers, and the docks have been extended by a lot. Not only Chernogorsk but also Tolga has received a nice new visual update with the addition of a ski lift. Now there's been very little information about the ski lift, whether it'll work eventually, or can we climb it, what can we do with it, etc. But mostly I think it'll be used for bringing the map more alive. The place west of Gorka, called Altar, is said to believe to have these radio stations installed there. Now the devs wanted a map-wide broadcasting system in the game for a very long time, so hopefully 060 will be the birth of this new feature. I showed you guys this picture of a fan drawing that somebody made for Tisi military base and what the map will look like with the military base in place. Now we compare it to the map that we got to see in the 060 render update video. We can see some interesting similarities. Unfortunately, we can't see the outer perimeter of the base, but we can see a very large structure just to the north of the actual military base itself. Now keep in mind the first iteration experimental will most likely not be the one eventually released at the stable. So let's hope Tisi will be even bigger than it looks. Now, DayZ was said to have predators in the game a very long time ago, but with the addition of their new studio in Bratislava, they have really been able to bring the AI for these animals to life. Not only will these animals hunt in packs, they will also be hunting survivors. Now since the very start of standalone, players wanted to have some non-lethal options to take down other players but not necessarily kill them. Hopefully with the addition of the dart gun and the taser, the new patch will nurture some non-lethal playstyles as well. Next up we have the OTS-14 Groza. Now this Russian designed bullpup assault rifle will fire the same round used in the AKM and the SKS. If you liked the LAW rocket in the last video, you'll be pleased to hear that the RPG will also be making an entrance into DayZ. Now the shotguns in DayZ have been kind of broken from the very start really, often firing only 1 out of 8 pellets or being heavily overpowered. With an introduction of the new damage system coming out soon, maybe in 060, maybe after, these problems should be history. Anyway, the Saiga 12, the fully automatic shotgun, is also set to make an appearance in DayZ. Continuing the trend of bringing in new Russian-made weapons into the game, we have the PKM. If the saw wasn't quite your style, you'll have a heavy-hitting Russian round to throw at your enemies now. Last up, not quite a weapon, but we've got the finished model for the night vision goggles. Now these goggles have been a cornerstone of the mod for a very long time, but in standalone, they're set to become the most rare item in the game. Now before we continue the rest of this video, I just wanted to say that 060 is set out to become one of the biggest patches ever for DayZ, and considering the fact that we haven't had an experimental or stable patch for the last 5 months. We will probably see a large selection of the stuff that we featured in these 2 videos at the end of 060's experimental phase. But since the devs stopped confirming or denying to stop people from getting their hopes up, it's really hard to say which one will actually make it into 060. But as I said, 060 is set to become a very large patch, and some of this stuff has actually been in development for over a year. Anyway, let's get on with the video. New vehicles. Now ever since the last patch for vehicles where all the vehicles were pretty crappy off-road all of a sudden, we really need some new off-road fast vehicles. In comes the dirt bike. This thing really was a mod favorite just to get your buddies off the coast really quickly and back to base and back into the action. Also, because it is so fast off-road, it is also a great tool to seek out other players' camps at the edges of the map. We haven't heard from the bicycle for a very long time, but the devs do like to put surprises in the experimental patches. The bicycle in the mod was the vehicle of choice for many snipers because it is so silent. It will also probably be one of the more common vehicles in Chernarus. The loot economy. So the devs have put a very large emphasis on the loot economy from the very start of Standalone, but many players have trouble understanding why and how it affects them. So the loot economy basically consists of a system where the devs have control over what item spawns in what zone. Now mostly this system will be used for the map Chernarus because Chernarus uses a loot progression system, where all the lower end items will spawn on the coast and the higher end items will spawn in the northwest. Now previously there was very little zone control where stuff spawned as items were linked to specific buildings instead of zones on the map. So this new system will facilitate a more entertaining way to see character progression throughout the map. Just to put it into perspective of what we have now, right now you spawn on the coast, you go to a high-end military location, and all the stuff that you will eventually need will be at that location. So in the new patch you will have to go to different locations to get all your gear together. For example, one city may be spawning relatively a large amount of backpacks and the other city may be spawning a large amount of clothing. But you can also imagine that this will bring a whole new level of exclusivity. Tissi military base will be a contaminated area, so you'll need a hazmat suit just to get into the location and get your hands on these exclusive items. New animations. There was an animation system said to be almost done quite a while ago. The new animation system was needed so characters can do 2 animations at once. The body will be divided up into sections which will be able to play animations separately from each other. So what this means for the player is that the game will feel a lot less clunky and you can always do the action that you want to do at the exact time you wanted to do it. So the animation you're looking at now is the limping animation. As soon as you're shot in the chest or in the leg, your character will start limping. Next up we see a character blowing into his hands and warming himself up because he's the only idiot who would actually only wear a shirt outside. And has the little animations for walking stairs, and as soon as he stands still you can actually see that he's moving his feet while he's trying to turn. What's a zombie game without loads of different kinds of zombies? So the developers have been working on a system where they can make new zombie models very quickly using a template. One thing to note here is that Dean Hall, the creator of DayZ, has been turned into a zombie instead of a player character. Next up, the HUD. All the stuff you see on the screen whilst you're playing. So the aim of the HUD in DayZ has always been to be very minimalistic while still giving some good feedback to the player controlling his character. However, DayZ is a very immersive type game and players want to be able to turn it off whilst playing, so you can do that by pressing the multiply key. And lastly, we have a concept of what the inventory is supposed to look like in the next patch. Keep in mind that the graphical user interface, or GUI, is tied into the renderer, so by replacing the renderer, the GUI has to be replaced, and this gives a great opportunity to give us a more polished looking GUI. Basically a fancy way of saying this shit will come into 060. So lastly, I want to touch on the servers. Now the servers have always been running 40 or 50 players from the very start as a maximum player count. Player density for standalone compared to the mod has always been on the very low side. And even with the map being 33% bigger, the player count has gone down. Now to reach the same player density as on the mod, the servers will have to run 80 slots. So I'm very pleased to hear that 060 experimental servers will be running on a higher player count than before. I'm very excited because of this, because this was one of the main things that I did not like too much about the standalone, and I really hope this will be continued throughout DayZ's development from here on out. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I hope you found this video informative. Please browse the channel for many other pieces of DayZ content, and I hope to see you in the next video.
Correctional facility was one of the toughest prisons in Eastern Europe.
We had one of the prisoners try to kill one of our guards.
Oh shit.
How
Already?
You guys take matters into your own hands.
He's fucking lying!
Oh my god!